Thank you very much. And thank you, Minister, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Honourable Member for St. James North.
Thank you, Honourable Chairman. I first beg your indulgence to speak to an issue which was on the news yesterday, and of which I spoke to the Honourable Minister on yesterday when I heard the news report. And I am taking it on myself, sir, as a member of this Honourable Chamber, to speak on what is the law and to warn employers who dismiss employees who are selected and who go and represent Barbados in sports that they are in breach of the law. Section 31C, Roman numeral 8, is very clear on this, sir. And I really don't understand why this should still be an issue in this Barbados, such that it was raised at a branch meeting of the Barbados Labour Party 2 days ago. A dismissal, that section, sir, says a dismissal of an employee contravenes the right conferred on him not to be unfairly dismissed by his employer if the reason for the dismissal is that the employee was absent from work as a result of the performance of a national duty. National duty is defined in subsection 2B of that section 30 to include selection or endorsement of the employee by a relevant locally recognized organization to participate in a number of activities, including a sporting event at the regional or international level, provided the employee so participated. So if an individual, an employee, is selected by a national sporting organization to represent Barbados internationally or regionally, and is subsequently dismissed for that reason, or for that reason being the primary reason, the employer is in breach of the law and is in breach of the Employment Rights Act and is subject to penalty, paying the compensation for the dismissal, or in my submission, sir, quite honestly, reinstatement ought to be the only real choice of the Employment Rights Tribunal in such a case, unless the employee opts not to be reinstated. And it's appalling that after 12 years of this statute being enforced, sir, that this should still be an issue. I believe this issue was raised in this Parliament already. Whiteside was a member of it. And I don't see why this should still be an issue, because these are the same employers who, when November comes around, are pomposetting that they are so nationalistic, they are so patriotic, they are so patriotic, and in some cases, I'm sure, they are making money out of our independence celebrations or Republic celebrations. And this law makes proper sense, sir, because you want well-rounded individuals. In fact, national duty is also defined to include organizations, members of organizations representing the Boy Scouts and Girl Guides and St. John Ambulance, of which I was once legal advisor, and I believe the Honourable Member for Christchurch East succeeded me as legal advisor. It also includes jury duty, sir. And I recognize that at least 2 criminal court judges recently had to again reiterate to employers in this country that they can't
Honourable
penalize.
member, I also have to reiterate that
Yes,
you should
sir.
ask the question. You have
And
exceeded your 3 minutes.
appreciate that, sir. But I just want to make this plain, sir, and warn employers that they ought not to be penalizing and dismissing their employees under these circumstances. In terms of the question, sir, Honourable Minister, parenting is a major challenge. Issues of parenting or perhaps lack of proper parenting in Barbados. And you're fully aware that I am conducting such a program every Saturday morning now, parent education. And I am just wondering, Honourable Minister, where in your budget is provision found for advancement of such programs? I know that the Ministry of Crime Prevention has taken the lead on that, but I know funds have been spread across different ministries, at least during this financial year, on that. And where is your ministry's provision for that? How much money is provided? And combined with that, Honourable Chairman, is the issue of the Youth Advance Corps, where what I am seeing, and Honourable Minister, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that under Program 77, Sub-Program 567, I am seeing a proposal to reduce the estimates for this coming financial year for the Youth Advance Corps from 19 million last year, $19 million, to only $11.4 million this year. And I was wondering what would inform such a decision to reduce to that extent monies allocated for the Youth Advance Corps. First question, sir.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Chair asks you to come with a question. It seems like you asked all 7 one time. But I will respond to you. Yes, parenting is a major concern of the ministry. We have launched last year a mentorship program. We have the youth hotline, and I believe that a parenting program, in particular the mentorship program, I believe that a parenting program should be fused to this particular initiative to ensure that the mentees benefit in a significant way from that parenting program. There's a special projects committee at the ministry, and I've asked them to look at the possibility of rolling out a national parenting program. But embedded in the programming of the youth development program are parenting projects that will come. So I'm going to ask the Principal Youth Development Officer, Mrs. Titus, to answer you in relation to some of the parenting programs that would have come from her section. And then Director Haynes will respond to you in relation to the BYAC. Thank you.
Good morning, honorable members. Andrea Titus, Principal Youth Development Officer. As the Minister of Youth indicated earlier, we are about to launch a parenting program.
Officer, I didn't get the first name.
Andrea.
It's the chair speaking.
Andrea.
Thank you.
Andrea Titus. As the Minister indicated earlier, we are about to launch a parenting program. This is a national program, and this is basically being, it would spiral from our mentorship program, where we want to provide that type of support for the parents who would have been involved with within our mentorship program. And this is something that we are looking at launching actually this month, coming on to the end of March. In addition to that, we would have had one of the officers also launching a parenting program sometime during the month of February as well. But this program that we will be launching in March with what we consider a national program where parents from all across Barbados would definitely be benefiting. Thank you.
Chair, before the director, and I ask forgiveness. Before the director speak, let me say to this honorable chamber that the ministry is in mourning because one of our senior officers, Mr. Victor Baval, passed over the weekend. And I want to take this opportunity on behalf of myself and government to extend sincere condolences to his family and may his soul rest in eternal peace. Director.
Good morning, all. Harley Haynes, Director of the Barbados Youth Advanced Corps. In relation to the question raised by the honorable member, the provision, we were $8 million short in the provision in relation to the Barbados Youth Advanced Corps. We have subsequently requested a move-in in the estimates through the Ministry of Finance. And once that is approved, we will see the construction of the classroom block, the construction of the kitchen cafeteria or the auditorium block, and the continued infrastructural work of the second phase of the Barbados Youth Advanced Headquarters. Once we have the funds in this new financial year, we expect to complete the BYAC headquarters in April of 2025. And this really will end the journey of having a permanent home for the Barbados Youth Advanced Corps so we can cater to 300 persons per intake, a total of 900 persons. And this will represent a historic movement, occasion for as we seek to respond to the development needs of our young people.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. My second intervention, Honourable Chairman, relates to a constituency issues and Western. There's a community centre at Western, of course, and Honourable Minister, I know that 3 years ago, I think, as COVID then came upon us, monies had been allocated in the estimates for pursuit of robotics at that center. I see under your sub-program 437 Community Technological Program, there's $2.6 million allocated for information technology provision to the masses, and I'm wondering if provision is in there for the advancement of information technology at Western, which had been the intention, as I said, about 3 years ago, but then had to be curtailed, but also at the community center at Sion Hill. And also, Honourable Minister, if there is still an intention to put a mini sporting facility at Western behind the community center which could accommodate netball and basketball. There's not enough space for wider sports there. And finally on Western, Honourable Chairman, the issue I got up to today calls from constituents that there are issues with the use of the community center and the Community Development Department curtailing or hindering that use for a reason that has not been made known to, for example, the Western Fisherfolk Association, who used to have use of that center on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then were suddenly told that for some reason, because of some issue, they couldn't be used. And I really think that in the interest of accountability, if there are challenges, it should be known to my constituents, especially those in the Western area.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I remember doing a site visit with you at the location in relation to the addition of sports, and I will ask Mr. Matthias to address you on where we're at as it relates to the small area adjacent to the community center. As it relates to the community technology program, we have put that on pause at this point in time. We have to do some reviewing of the program. So right now, it is not currently going. But I will ask after Mr. Matthias, Mrs. Skeet to come and speak to you in relation to what is the position in relation to the usage of the community center at Weston. Mr. Matthias?
Good morning again. I was on that site visit, that initial site visit, in regards to the basketball, netball court at the back of the facility. And we did proceed to get, to start that process. But in that process, there came an issue with the right-of-way when it comes to the boundaries that was raised on a secondary site visit. Two of the residents came out and inquired as to what our approach was. When we did our research through National Housing and Land and Surveys, there was a right-of-way in the initial area where we wanted to put the full court. So we had to rethink the idea and come up with a plan of action. We would have requested that the area be surveyed so we could see those boundary marks clearly, and that has not been done up until this point. But we have not forgotten, and we are still, we still have the best done in terms of making that basketball, netball facility a reality.
Good morning again, everyone. In relation to the question of the use of the Western Resource Center, last year, there was the construction of a fish market, temporary facility in the car park of the Western Resource Center. And since then, we've had a water bill of in excess of $800. I've asked the officers who are assigned to that area to conduct a site visit. That site visit is due to be undertaken sometime during the course of this week. Certainly, we understand the state of disrepair the Western Resource Center is currently in, and it is all in an attempt to ensure that those persons, the center patrons, that they have a safe space where they can have their community activities. Certainly, it is not an attempt to hinder the use of the facility, but those persons who are familiar with that facility, you can see the state of disrepair. The windows are starting to fall out whenever it rains. Rain is there's a lot of water seepage going into that building. That building is predominantly wooden, so therefore that is the challenge to the eastern side. We have an engineer's report, and the engineer's report, which is on file, it did indicate that it is going to take a substantial amount of money to ensure that the Western Resource Center is pressed back into, an acceptable state of use. But what I can assure is that we have allocated $300,000 in this financial year to commence those repairs. But the challenge now is because there is the temporary fish market in that particular area, that is going to be the challenge. So we have to ensure that facility, which is over to the seaside of the road there in Weston, that facility is completed. Then the persons who are actually taking residence now in that car park, that is moved before we can undertake the refurbishment of that facility. But certainly, we have allocated in this financial year $300,000 to commence the repairs. And what I can say here is that the Western resource center might be similar to some of the other resource centers we were challenged with preparing for the last 2 or 3 financial years. They had to be undertaken in phases. For instance, those persons who are familiar with Grisette's was also in an awful state of disrepair, and we had to undertake that refurbishment there in 3 phases. Similarly, Gall Hill. And as we go on, we are going to treat to those areas, but certainly you have to bear with us because we have seen an aggressive maintenance program which commenced from 2020 and is still currently ongoing. But I would have to caution, in this particular maintenance unit, there's only 2 persons who are actually responsible for maintenance at this point in time. I was tasked with the responsibility as Deputy Chief Community Development Officer acting, and now I am still tasked with that responsibility as Chief Community Development Officer acting. And then there is a maintenance supervisor in the ministry. So it's just the 2 of us, a 2-man army, ensuring that we have carried out an aggressive maintenance program within the last 2 financial years. So certainly we are going to treat to those areas, but it is going to take some work because of the extensive repairs which are required.
I thank the officers for those responses, but just wish to say, one, yes, I'm aware of the challenge at Western with the proposed very many sports facilities, but would urge the ministry, there are no recreational areas for sports in St. James North along the coast. Nothing between Maple Cricket Ground and Spikestown playing field. And I really urge the ministry to resolve this issue of lack of sporting facilities along the coast for a quite large percentage of people residing in St. James North. And in terms of the use of the community center, the response of the acting chief is reasonable. I could only urge, and this in my submission is a failure in terms of a lot of government departments, inform the people. Don't just say that, you can't use it. Let them know the reason why. We even have an administrative justice act in terms of these purposes for other issues, for government to inform the citizens who have a right to know when these decisions are taken. My final question, Honourable Chairman, relates to people with disabilities and the National Sports Policy, which I believe is a green paper, Honourable Minister. You could correct me if I'm wrong. You would recall that when the National Advisory Committee, when it was established, met with your ministry, I think it might have been around August 2022, and the issue of more involvement for persons with disabilities in sports in Barbados was vouched, and I believe you subsequently would have set up a committee on it, arising out of further parliamentary group discussions, and I'm just wondering if you can give a report, and if not you, sir, your Director of Sports, on the improvements or advances made to involve persons with disabilities, especially young persons with disabilities, in sports in Barbados, as is their fundamental human right.
Thank you for the question, Honourable Member. Look, yes, we are making moves in relation to including persons with disability in sports. I'm going to ask Mr. Rowe to speak a little bit about the sports policy and what is contained in there. But every effort is being made within the ministry, not only in sports, but to embrace young persons with disability into all of our programs. And a clear indication of that would have been our move into 2 summer camps under our National Camps program to facilitate those individuals. But I will ask Mr. Rowe to speak to you a little bit about what is contained in and you are correct, at this time, the green paper of the National Sports Policy.
Thank you, Minister. Well, with respect to the green paper on the National Sports Policy, if you can just bear with me momentarily so that I can give you the specifics. Okay, Stephen Rowe, Sports Development Officer in the ministry. All right, thank you for the question, Minister. All right, with respect to the green paper on the National Sports Policy, what we've sought to do is ensure that the disabled, their provisions at each juncture to have the disabled embraced in all areas of sports, whether it be sports facilities, whether it be sports programming, whether it be access to training. We've sought in all areas to ensure that the differently able is embraced. Thank you.
I thank you, Honourable Chairman.